Hello and welcome back to Pure Michigan Sports. Christian Peck-Dimit, Alex Deimel, and once again, we've got a lot to talk about. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. And we have all of the new sports news in the state of Michigan, and there is a ton of it. The Wings are absolutely rolling. The Pistons have a brand new all-star. Women's basketball beat the brakes off of Oregon. Men's basketball, as far as when we're recording this, is actually playing right now against the team that the women beat up on a few days ago, Oregon. And the Tigers re-signed Flaherty. So just top to bottom, a bunch of news. We're going to get to all of it. And you know where we have to start, and that is on the ice, because the Wings have been absolutely murdering it. Killing it feels like you're doing them a disservice, but calling them mass murderers also feels like an objectively bad thing. So we're just going to say
the West.
we did mass murder the West. We're just going to stay objective and say that they are insane right now. Winners of 7 in a row. 15 and 4 and 1 in their last however many that is total, 20 games. It's spectacular. It's super, super cool to see.
It's. I remember sitting and we were recording. It was the first episode we did after Lalonde was fired, and I sat here and I talked about. I didn't know if he was if that was the key.
If getting rid of him solves all your problems.
Exactly what needed to be changed. Clearly, that's exactly what needed. Tom McClellan, 15-4, like I said, 15-4 and 1 in their last 20 games. Still undefeated in the month of February. Obviously, we're only 5 days in. But let's see. I do want to go back and just kind of analyze for a second, because you could talk about, like, they're obviously not the first team to go on a 7-game win streak. But when you look at some of these teams that they've been able to persevere and beat, you start. I guess, yeah, it would have been January 23rd against the Canadians. Quick 4-2 win. A Canadians team that had been killing you early in the season was completely their kryptonite. Letting up 5 goals a game against the Canadians. Shutting out at home a very offensively talented Tampa Bay Lightning team, in which Cam Talbot decided to just have the game of his fucking life with 28 saves and 0 goals allowed. And then right after that, I think was our most recent episode before this, and we were talking about this West Coast trip, and I was like, you're not going to get all of them. Those were my exact words. You're not going to get all of them. If you can get a few, that's great. You need to keep some momentum going into the Four Nations. Starting in LA, going in, beating a Kings team that's been pretty freaking good this year. I think they're in a playoff spot, actually. Let me take a look here.
Yeah, they are.
Yes,
third spot in the Pacific.
Beat them 5-2 at home. That's where the Elmer Soderblom, I guess, whirlwind comes into play. Go to Edmonton. Play it. I don't need to tell our listeners how talented Edmonton is. Go down 2-0 early in the first period off of what was one of the worst defensive periods I've seen in hockey in a long time. So much so that I shut it off. Apparently, me turning off the game was what the Wings needed, because they then came back, tied it in the second, and then won in a shootout with a Raymond and Larkin goal in the shootout to put them 3-2 over the Oilers. Get into February, go to Calgary, take a 3-1 game against the Flames, a 3-2 game against the Canucks in overtime, off of a beautiful feed from Lucas Raymond. I want to say that was Sunday or Saturday, one of the two, to revenge back in December when we hosted them. Yeah, we tied it up after being down 4-1 and then lost in overtime. So revenging the loss against Vancouver from the beginning of December, and then you have last night at Seattle. Now Seattle's been a kind of meh team all year. You go up 2-1 in the first, 3-2 in the second. Then they come back and tie it very late in the third. And it seemed like all momentum just vanished within the last 10 minutes of the game. You have a goal by Shane Wright and then Chandler Stevenson. Overtime, very back and forth. Both teams are splitting things up. And I don't know if I was the only one that didn't realize that Patrick Kane was on the verge of history.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was that close.
All of a sudden, the stat pops up on the, I guess now, FanDuel broadcast um, as he's about to go shoot. And I go, okay, like, let's see if he gets it. He gets it. And I'm going nuts. Because for whatever reason, I thought that Raymond had scored the first goal. So I'm like, oh, the game is done. Then I turn around, and Capo Caco is currently hard charging Cam Talbot. Luckily, Talbot made the save there. But again, you can't ever deny, even at way past what people would call his prime, Patrick Kane has been a huge part in this team's success, especially due to the fact that part of the reason, part of what was going on those long losing streaks that we saw was him being on injured reserve. It's clear how much he still does mean to. He could mean to any team. Luckily, it is the Wings. And what I do, if you look back, 5 goals, technically 4 with a shootout win goal last night. 3 against the Canucks, 3 against the Flames, 3 against the Oilers, 5 against the Kings, 2 against the Wings, 4 against the Canadiens. When this team scores, they can win. When you score, you win. It's so freaking simple. But when you are seeing you have the Larkin, DeBrincat, Raymond line, you're even seeing guys like Mo Sider, Marco Kasper, Jonathan Berggren. I think there was a stat where it was like the 6 of the most recent NHL draft picks since 2018, and their production, if we can find a way to put this, I guess, into the podcast somehow, where people like Jonathan Berggren, Elmer Soderblom's on a 6-game point streak. Marco Kasper has been dealing lately, scoring all different kinds of goals, whether it's backhand, forehand. He's just finding a way to get the puck in the net or find the open pass to get the puck in there. This team is clicking, and clearly in a way that it did not click under Derek Lalonde. Now I think at a 60% chance to make a playoff, have that wild card spot. The biggest difference of it all, I think at 31 points and close to the bottom, if not at the bottom of the Eastern Conference come Christmas. Now at 61 points 2 months later and in a wild card spot. What that does show you is how much things can change and how quickly things can change in this league. Obviously, something you have to maintain. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that we have from now until Saturday till we play again, then we have another week and a half, 2 weeks, that completely kind of destroys our momentum, and you're risking Larkin and Raymond getting hurt in the Four Nations. Do I think the Four Nations should exist? Absolutely. And if you want to hear my rant on that, go listen to last week's pod. But it is a little frustrating that this is happening now. But points are points, wins are wins. This is an incredible win streak. I don't see any reason for Wings fans to be complaining right now.
Oh, absolutely not. There's always, as you mentioned, that question of rust versus rest, where you take a bunch of time off, you have one game in the next 2 weeks, más o menos, and how much is it? Well, it's killing our momentum versus it's, all right, everybody needed a break. You're worn out. You were just on a long road trip. Now you get a chance to take a deep breath and have a little bit of a break. It hits people differently. You referenced it, but officially Patty Kane with a shootout goal last night, most shootout goals in NHL history. You mentioned the playoff spot that we're in right now. I don't know if people have checked that yet. We're also a point out of a genuine playoff spot, not just a wild card spot, but we're a point out of that third spot in the Atlantic, which is even more impressive. And one final stat for the Wings here, because this is a good one. This is a lovely little ESPN stat that will I've had coaches, when I'll send them stats like this, go, no, don't post that. This makes us look bad because of how bad we have been. 4-game road trip sweep. First sweep of a 4-game road trip since March of, give me a guess on the year.
2014?
96. 96.
Why did I think it was 2014? That made no sense. But yeah, and think of the talent on that 96, I believe, Stanley Cup winning team.
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Just
I'm doing my best to keep up with what we got now, brother. Hockey, I'm a transplant hockey fan. We didn't grow up with this.
No, sorry. 96 finals would have been when Colorado beat us. But still, another huge stat I want to point out. Month of December, total penalty minutes at 90. They finished the month of December with 90 total penalty minutes. January, total of 64.
Oh, jeez.
Cut almost into a third out of your penalty minutes.
Mm.
This month, again, they've only played 3 games. Total of 6. Obviously very early in the month. But even going back to November, where you had 75. October, you had 87. It is a clear-cut, drastic decrease in penalties, which was what was killing this team, especially considering this team's strength is not in their defense. Not even close. So, it's exactly what Lalonde needed to do. Apparently he couldn't, and Todd McClellan can. Decreasing the penalties, generating scoring, and just playing fucking hockey. And the fact that is, at the end of the day, what the phrase has been is just play hockey, or just play fucking hockey, blows my mind. Because this team is doing much more than that. They're clearly gelling together. The penalties are a lot less. Everybody's on the same page. You can tell there is just it's when you get hot, especially in a team sport, you keep getting hot. And you're going to get hotter until everybody hits their peak. But you can tell this team is just flowing. You can tell it in how, just watching the pass from Raymond to DeBrincat on Sunday. This team is clicking. And I think the only real change is Todd McClellan.
Mm.
And that's what it goes back to at the end of the day. It was clearly, hand up, I was wrong. A coaching shift was much more needed than I thought.
Because I remember we talked about it originally, was not only is a firing not probably, and clearly we were wrong, going to solve all your problems, but correct me if I'm wrong here, but this podcast in general has not super been supportive of mid-season coaching firings in general.
In any sport.
Mm.
In any sport. And a lot of it goes back to you're changing up a lot. You're completely shifting a team's dynamic, a team's game plan. You're shifting, and obviously, it's a lot to overcome. It's a lot to try to completely adapt to a new coach in the middle of a year. Clearly, this team did not have that problem. Another big thing I did want to point out, Dominic Shine. You ever heard that name?
I have not, no.
There's a reason for that. He spent 9 years in the AHL and made his NHL debut, I want to say a week or two ago. He was in GR for a while. They just assigned him back down to Grand Rapids. Got his first career point, I think, on a Larkin assist. Played 4 games total for the Wings. Did his job, did what we needed him to do. Just great hearing stories like that of guys, they've definitely put in the work in the minors. They've been there for a long time. It's that minor league vet mentality where then all of a sudden, you're playing with guys that could be 10 years younger than you, but you've been in that world for so long. It must just feel so gratifying to have that experience no matter when it comes. But I think you have a much clearer appreciation for it. My guess is you would have a much clearer appreciation for it if you've been down there for so long.
That's fair. Quick hop over to the hardwood. Michigan is playing men's basketball right now. 10-point lead on Oregon. When this comes out Thursday morning, hopefully everyone will be celebrating a Michigan win. So far it's looked like a lot of offense, 50% from the field, 56% from 3, including Cheddar off the bench, 2 of 3 from triple land. Unsurprising for a team that has led the conference in field goal percentage. And this would be, obviously it's a home win, but it'd be a nice Big Ten win for us. You've heard us mention a million times the difficulty not only of the Big Ten and playing night in, night out in this conference in general, but the stretch that Michigan has, period, where you've got 2 top 10 teams in the next few weeks here. So look out for that. Obviously, hopefully we take a win into those games. Got to hop over to the women as well. It is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. So got to support the girls, and in this case, the women. I think I have the women's basketball sweatshirt on right now, so I'm fitting. It's perfect. The women just beat the absolute tar out of Oregon. I don't know if anyone saw this game or saw the highlights from this game. It was ugly. If you want to guess the final score, I know most of our listeners probably don't watch women's ball. That's fine. We scored 80. Oregon, give me a guess here.
50?
48.
Oh, 2 off.
That's nasty shit.
Wow.
Doing that to a Power 4 team is ugly. You held them under 30% from the field. Awful. And the highlight from this one.
6 Oregon team. This is not
Say that again? Yeah, no, that's a good team too.
Team at all. Beat 16 ranked MSU the game before. They've got Scott's Scott's putting up 10.3 a game. Totally didn't just look that up on my phone. But it's good to see, that kind of shift and balance, especially when there are games you're just going to go in and kill a team. There's also going to be games where you come in and get killed. It is kind of the beauty of college basketball.
Michigan women's ball fans know exactly what that looks like. You said that Oregon beat MSU a few games ago. MSU beat Michigan on the women's court by 30 points. Just absolutely nasty. And what should have been, you remember us previewing that game thinking like, ooh, this is a good gauge of where you are. Clearly not where you want to be because good Lord, that's ugly. And I'm sure that longtime listeners, of which we have none, remember us talking about the freshmen and the young core on this team. Add another Freshman of the Week award to that list. Olivia Olson gets another one. In that win over Oregon, she had 18 and 10, missed 3 shots, and was just stellar. It's her and Silas Swords who are 2 of the only freshmen, or I think it's the only freshman duo in the country averaging, at least 15 points on X% from the field. It's really cool to see not only Michigan ball playing so well, but also to have a nice young core up and coming too. You want to hop over to the Diamond real quick because we do have a brand new sign, obviously not brand new, but a re-signing that could be key.
Yeah, welcome back, Jack Flaherty. Locked him into a 2-year deal worth $35 million. I don't know how I feel about obviously, pitchers are going to be a bit more pricey. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the money. But this was a guy who, say what you want to say about how they were earlier in the season, you don't make the playoffs without him. You do not make that run. You don't have at least enough of a safety net to at least go on that run and have it be enough to get you that wild card spot without Jack Flaherty dealing in April and May. The guy was on fucking fire. And there's a reason the Dodgers wanted him come postseason. He turned it on for them as well. It's good to see him back. If this means that Kenta Maeda is closer and closer to being just a lesser and lesser role, I am incredibly happy with that.
Weekly crap on Kenta.
100%.
We got to make it a segment.
What I do want to also mention is, according to Buster Olney, I think yesterday, Tigers are still pursuing Alex Bregman.
That was going to be a question for you because not only that, but Tiger fans are wanting it too. And it feels like something where if you get him, it will end up being an overpay and you can end up in situations that the Tigers have been in, in the last few years. Is that still your opinion on it? Because I feel like I'm with you there.
It is still my opinion. I think for me, it'll matter less on the monetary value.
Oh, really?
And more on the length. Because I cannot see a world in which shelling out 6-7 years for he's what 31, I think. Let's see. It's my
I'll grab it.
luck.
I got you.
He is 30. Sorry, he'll be 31 come opening day. I really don't want to see another guy making a multi-million dollars a year come 35 when he's not producing. And again, it's easy to say that now. You've had guys like Miggy was producing still, I believe, at 35. Or maybe my numbers are off there, but he was producing until about his mid 30s. So I think it's one of those where if you can get it for a 4-year deal, you lock up a solid piece, guy that's probably going to still get you 20 home runs, 80 RBIs, maybe 250, 220 batting average, somewhere in there, and could come up in the clutch for you a couple times. But is that worth shelling out that much money right now? I don't know that I would 100% bet on it. I'm not going to complain if they bring him in unless he gets a 10-year, hundreds of $1 million deal. Then I'm closing up shop. I'm done.
And it's still tough to judge the timetable of this team, right? Because on the one hand, it's young and up and coming, but the playoffs and the playoff trip from last year and the playoff win starts to speed you up a little bit and maybe put a little bit more pressure on ownership, and then you start to feel like you almost have to go out and make a move like that. And I feel like that's overstepping a little bit.
Yeah, and I think obviously you can't deny he's been a multi-time All-Star. The guy's got talent. He's been with a great Astros team the past few years, it seems as which, according to their GM, that insinuating he is done in Houston. I know the Cubs are pursuing. There are a couple teams that are pursuing him. I do wonder if this is one of those guys where if you can get him for that 4 year and maybe overpay a little bit, you take it. It's an extra piece that you don't, you have enough to work around where Hinch can now put different guys in certain positions and shift people around since you have that third base spot locked up, or maybe even every once in a while that DH spot locked up. Who knows? I also wonder if the Cubs or another one of these bigger market teams that are pursuing him raise the bar high enough to where will Chris Ilitch or Scott Harris bow out, or are they going to try to re-raise the bar? I think re-raising the bar is clearly the wrong choice.
I think you're right. I think you have to go into a negotiation like that with a set number. He's not a blank check guy. Not for your team right now. You know who is a blank check guy?
Cade Cunningham?
Cade Cunningham. Golly, dude. You have heard me talking about a weekly segment to crap on Kenta Maeda. We darn near have had a weekly segment of Christian glazes the hell out of Cade Cunningham. What this dude has done for the Detroit Pistons this last year has been simply incredible. Not only was he named an All-Star, and that was something that we sort of have known for a while, right? We, for a few weeks there, it was like he better be an All-Star, and then it became like, all right, will he be a starter or a reserve? It was less a debate of what would he or won't he. But what I loved most about him being named an All-Star isn't the fact that he was named an All-Star. It's the fact that the very next day, within 24 hours of being named an All-Star, he drops 40 on Dallas. 40 on 17 of 30, 6-4, forces one of the stupidest trades of all time.
Do we want to talk
insane. Then he turns around, Pistons next game, 22 and 15 assists, beat Chicago so badly that they traded Zach LaVine. This dude is on fire, and he's making team. Cade Cunningham is ruining franchises. That's in my mind what's happening. You cannot convince me otherwise. He then did put up another nice stat line, but in a loss, 30, 14 assists, which is insane.
I mean, of course it's Trae Young.
Did you see that shot? Dude, I'm watching going down the stretch, And it so happened that I was on the phone with a friend while I'm watching this game, and I literally go, they're just going to put the ball, because Cade, all credit to him, clutch bucket, down the lane, off an ATO, boom, ties the ball game, clutch bucket, final, whatever it was, 30 seconds. And I just knew. Right then I was like, good Lord, I just pray that the Hawks leave us enough time for a shot. Because I just know that Trae Young's going to come down the court and he's going to cook whoever we put on him. And the fact that it was like a whirling dervish, like Kevin Durant on the Nets-esque stepping turnaround fadeaway, just hurt all the more because it made me feel like we had played great defense on him and forced a terrible shot, and then he hits it anyways.
You know what it looked like? You remember that video of that guy, he's like making fun of himself and he does the quick move and then is like, this is the shot that made LeBron cry.
Yes.
That's immediately where my brain went. And the fact that that shot went in, of course, who else was going to shoot it that way where you're so upright and tight and instant?
If it's not Trae Young or like Steph Curry or Kevin Durant, no one makes that shot. But if it's with the time running out against the Pistons, Trae Young doesn't miss that shot. I don't know why. I don't know if he hates us. I don't know if like the LCA like does something for him. Like there's a fan sitting courtside that always like triggers certain anger. It feels like he always cooks the hell out of us. He always serves us up on a platter. I don't know why, but he does. And that sucks because it felt like down the stretch it was like he could do no wrong, and that just grinds my gears.
We're a Michigan podcast. We're a Michigan-based podcast. Do we want to... You said... I guess we're pinning the Mavs-Lakers trade unpaid. We're saying it's his fault.
We are, yeah. You want to talk about it? Insane. Insane.
You know what? We'll relate it to Detroit sports for a second. What would be your best comparison from a Detroit sports perspective? You can take any team. What would it take to make a trade that would be like the Luka trade?
Make you feel this way?
Yeah.
Well, let's start off with nothing. Because we can count on one hand the number of NBA players. You can probably count on like all your fingers and toes the number of players in any sport that have started a career individually as good as Luka has. He's 25 years old and has been first team All-NBA 5 times. 5 times. In his second year, he's beating out Steph Curry for All-NBA teams. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Like, just that saying that sentence.
And you know what it did? It actually made me believe more in Detroit sports. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Like, and I'm admitting
the stretch of the century.
Stretch.
Mm.
If you read more into this trade, and you read more about it, there seemed to be a lot of clear issues with Mavericks management and Luka.
It's just Nico Harrison. He just didn't like him.
But clearly enough to get rid of the guy. Like,
yeah.
I don't necessarily love LeBron by any means. I'd love to have him on my team because I know he's going to produce. If a city and a team like Dallas is making that bad of a trade, and we're not, something's going right.
We are the type of team that makes a trade like that. That's a great point. Like, historically, what people think of Detroit and Detroit sports, that's what it is.
But it's not only that. There was a clear motive. Like, I don't think Luka necessarily... I mean, he clearly didn't want to leave. He bought a $15 million house.
Yeah.
But if those fancy cities and those big markets that all of these prime athletes want to go to are can be that dysfunctional, there will always be hope for Detroit.
I love
Craziest stretch in the world. But
I
tell
love
me,
the stretch. No, this is prime seventh inning. This is stretch time. I love that. Uh, I saw this is not an original idea. I saw a TikToker make this same point, but I thought it was hilarious. The more that we read into the reporting of how this trade went down, so much of it is Rob Pelinka and his Nico Harrison saying it was just us. It was one-on-one. We didn't include the coaches. Obviously, there's that viral clip of Nico Harrison sitting next to Jason Kidd, head coach for the Mavs, and saying he didn't know about it until the news broke, but I know the kind of player he wants. I'm going to get him for him. We can communicate without communicating. I just know. And Jason Kidd sits there looking like he wants to kill everyone in that room. It just, that's hilarious. The fact that Nico Harrison was objectively wrong to make a move like that. The other side, I think it's so funny that someone compared it to grooming. Grooming's not funny. Doing that with kids, furthest thing from it. But the way that Rob Pelinka was like, don't tell anyone. This could be our little secret. Luka's fat as hell. I'll take him off your hands. Don't worry. This is just between us. That shit is insane.
That is a story you would hear coming out of Detroit, Michigan.
The comparison, by the way, for you, the closest thing I can get is realistically if, like, the Pistons package Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham for Anthony Davis. I don't know. For for Chris Middleton.
Like,
for anyone. For basically anyone that's not, like, an all-NBA caliber player.
Like, I can't imagine. That is, like, for the wings, I think it would be, like, let's take our entire starting line in Razor, Larkin, DeBrincat, or maybe or Kane, and let's send them out for John Tavares.
See, I don't even know who that is.
Old guy, definitely past his prime. Was an Islanders captain at one point. Now playing in Toronto. Just one of the and I don't even know if that's a fair comparison. It is one of those shocking trades, and obviously we're a Detroit sports podcast. We probably shouldn't even be talking about it, but it's so nice to not have to look back at, like, you can look at a team and look at what it's lost, and it's not yours.
9 times out of 10, we're sitting here going, damn it, why did we do this? And not why did someone else do this?
But the big difference here, though, in where it makes Detroit look even better, is oftentimes when we've let these guys go, it has been at points where they have not become what they are now. You saw that with they traded Isaac Paredes to the Rays. There was that famous clip that they caught of after he hit like his 15th homer. He was on an absolute tear, and he's walking in the dugout, and someone on the Rays staff or one of the Rays players goes, "The Tigers are fucking idiots." You saw that with Eugenio Suarez when he took off, having to think about the fact that he was a Tiger at one point. You saw it, JV's still dealing, Scherzer's still dealing, David Price. Like, you had all these guys, and then they were just gone. But this was like if they traded Miggy after winning the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Because he got fat.
That's the thing, is I don't know if you saw his introductory press conference with the Lakers. Luka looks sad and pissed as hell. So I feel bad for the first time that the Lakers play the Mavericks next. But secondly, someone's lying. He's not 270. Is he in the shape that the Lakers probably want him in, or that the Mavericks wanted him in? No, of course not. He's not 270.
No.
No.
That's like offensive lineman build.
Yeah. He's also 6'7", so 270 fills out more, but he's not. So someone along the way, as they tend to do, lied. Maybe it was Rob Pelinka to Nico Harrison, but there's all these reports about, the stuff that led up to it. with, like, you remember that old clip of from last year, them winning a finals game or winning the Western Conference Final and taking the beer from him. And at the time, it was like funny, haha, he took the beer. And now you're like, oh shit, it's just because Nico like doesn't like Luka, so he just doesn't like him, so he trades him. That's Matt Patricia, dude. That's the Matt Patricia experience of like he lost Darius Slay, he lost the locker room. Darius Slay didn't like him, trade him.
That
Quinn,
is, and as important as you know, the most important thing you can do, the number one priority, and you see it with Dan Campbell. Saw it last year with AJ Hinch. You now see it with McClellan. You can't coach if your players can't play for you.
Yeah.
Which is the most obvious statement in the world. But
Clearly not.
Patricia, you see the exact opposite with Campbell. These guys love him.
Mm-hmm.
At least if they don't, they're fucking awesome at pretending it. So
right? Like,
it's insane that we've reached. Like, it also, I think, puts, if there is anyone in any sport that doesn't feel a little on notice, you're crazy.
You're saying because they traded Luka, no one's untouchable.
If they're going to trade him, anything can happen.
Hey, Mavs held a little fake vigil for him outside of the stadium the next day, and one of them put it perfectly. He should have had a statue there.
Yeah.
There have been better players trade. There have been bigger trades. Wilt Chamberlain was traded back in the day. There has not been a more shocking trade. You are fresh off a finals appearance, bringing back your same core, and you trade a dude who is, at worst, the fourth best player in the NBA. When he's healthy, I argue 2. If you argue lower than 4, you're wrong.
But 2 behind
objectively wrong. What do you say?
2 behind who?
Jokic. Jokic is head and shoulders. Luka is number 2 when he's healthy. Right now, because of the way he's playing, you put Shea at number 2. That's fine. You put Luka at number 3. You cannot argue without me laughing and walking away that he's not a top 5 player in the entire league, in all of basketball, and you ship him away. Dude, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. However, important to note before we leave the subject, getting Anthony Davis for where the Mavericks are right now isn't actually a bad get. Like, that's still a contending team that realistically...
They could have done worse, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Like, could you make this trade in 2K? Would 2K let you make this trade? Of course not. But is Anthony Davis still an all-NBA player with first-team, second-team all-defense upside? Absolutely. Can he slow down Jokic in the playoffs? No, because no one can. But that's a Mavericks team that can absolutely still make it back to the finals. So make sure that doesn't get lost in translation, because I think it is for some people. Obviously, losing Luka is massive. I don't want to, write that off or gloss over it too much.
I do have one more wing stat that I forgot to bring up that I meant
Ooh.
to. Month of December, as a team, a total of 358 shots on goal. You want to take a guess at what that number is in January?
475?
427.
That's good.
November?
I overshot the increase, but...
October, 244.
244 in the month? Oh, because we started midway through October.
This
No.
month already, 82. And we have played 3 games.
Damn.
Yeah. We were clearly wrong.
Yeah.
It's what we talked about. It's the reverse of what we would have talked about 20 minutes ago, where you can have a coaching shift and have that be a huge difficulty when it comes to having a team adjust. It also could be the one thing that you need.
Yeah. Absolutely. You got to think about Monty Williams last year. If you fire him mid-season, maybe something changes. Because, there were roster improvements for the Pistons, but J.B. Bickerstaff has a lot to do with the reasons we're winning. There were no roster changes. It's even more isolated here. McClellan is just that dude.
Yes,
And it's dope to see the Wings winning. It's dope to see everybody doing well. Pistons are at 500 right now. Really, the only thing we can mourn is the Lions, but we're going to avoid that for now.
Yep.
We're gonna push our off-season talk a little longer to let the wound heal for the time being. Thank you for joining us.
Well, then maybe we can talk again.
Good plan. It's been Pure Michigan Sports.